Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking one of the most intense and, honestly, fascinating ideological clashes in modern sports history. We're looking at that razor-thin line between honoring old-school racing traditions and the realities of modern welfare-first management. It's a story about a horse, for sure, but really, it's about what happens when the romantic pursuit of legendary immortality collides head-on with multi-million-dollar corporate assets.
So let's set the scene. Picture the 2026 Kentucky Derby. Golden Tempo, a horse almost no one saw coming, completely shocked the globe. I mean, he surged from dead last at staggering 23-1 odds to literally tear the victory right out of the hands of the heavy favorites. In under 2 minutes, he didn't just win a race, he ignited a global obsession. The whole world was instantly ready to follow this incredible athlete straight into the history books. But then, just 4 days later on May 6th, the fairy tale completely shattered. The racing world woke up expecting a triumphant march toward the next big race, and instead they were completely blindsided. While the horse was perfectly healthy, sound, and at the absolute peak of his powers, his team made a devastating announcement. They were quitting the chase. They pulled him from the Preakness Stakes. Which begs a massive, deeply polarizing question that we're going to solve today. Why on earth would trainer Cherie voluntarily pull a magnificent athlete at his absolute peak from the Triple Crown Trail? Why willingly walk away from a date with ultimate glory? Let's start with the traditionalist fury and this idea of betraying the sport's soul. To understand the immediate visceral backlash, we really have to look at the gatekeepers of American racing. To them, skipping the race in Baltimore wasn't just a polite schedule change. No way. It was seen as a direct assault on the soul of the sport itself. And this timeline brilliantly illustrates why. This is the non-negotiable crucible that traditionalists absolutely revere. You have the Derby, then a brutal 2 weeks later the Preakness, followed just 3 weeks later by the Belmont Stakes. Surviving this unforgiving gauntlet is exactly what immortalized legends like Secretariat and affirmed.
Purists argue that by intentionally insulating Golden Tempo from this bone-crushing 2-week turnaround, modern management is essentially sanitizing the classics. They feel like it's lowering the historical bar of greatness just to accommodate contemporary fragility. To the old-school fans, the team was cowardly choosing a safe corporate sanctuary over a true date with destiny. Now let's flip over to the boardroom decision, where it's millions over mythology. Because to understand the owner's decision, you have to step off the dirt of the racetrack and into the boardroom. Behind closed doors at Phipps Stable and St. Elias Stable, the romantic pursuit of track glory immediately collided with cold, hard bloodstock economics. It created this deep philosophical rift. On one side, you're chasing public relations mythology, but on the other, you're treating the horse as a multi-million-dollar genetic asset. You see, Golden Tempo wasn't just a fast runner. He was a flawlessly bred son of the legendary Curlin out of the matriarch Karumba. He represented a biological blueprint that was, quite frankly, simply too valuable to risk. His future stallion value was astronomical. To put it in perspective, we're talking about generational wealth tied up in his DNA. His owners prioritized institutional longevity over immediate fame. And honestly, today's racing syndicates operate exactly like Wall Street hedge funds. They knew a single catastrophic injury or even a soul-crushing defeat at the Preakness could instantly slash tens of millions of dollars off his commercial valuation. So protecting the asset wasn't dodging history. To them, it was securing an empire. Which brings us to the breed crisis. Is the modern racehorse broken? This whole boardroom calculus forces the entire industry into a pretty bitter confrontation with its own systemic shortcomings. Critics argue that contemporary breeding has created a structurally soft athlete. They're bred purely for explosive speed, but often lack structural bone density and that classic iron horse endurance of past eras. By conceding that a healthy Derby champion needs 5 whole weeks of intensive recovery just to race again, it sparks an existential crisis for the sport. Are we genuinely protecting these athletes with welfare-first management, or are we just masking their genetic decline?
Let's look at the Saratoga blueprint and DeVoe's silent masterstroke.
While the industry debated and the rest of the 3-year-old division battered itself of the Triple Crown Trail, trainer Cherie was quietly executing a masterclass in tactical engineering up at Saratoga. Her master plan was brilliant in its simplicity. By bypassing the Preakness, she insulated the deep closing colt in a 5-week upstate New York sanctuary. This gave him pure oxygen to completely reset his muscular and metabolic systems.
far away from the grueling midsummer heat and the shipping stress that was actively draining his rivals. And this strategic rest was magnified by a massive structural shift in the racing calendar. Because Belmont Park was undergoing renovations, the 158th Belmont Stakes was actually relocated to Saratoga, and the distance was shortened to 1.25 miles. This created an absolute tactical dream scenario for a well-rested, deep closing horse. DeVos tuned him to peak with lethal precision.
Moving on to the Belmont Stakes, Redemption Under the Elms.
Which brings us to June 6, 2026. Beneath the historic elms of Saratoga, the ultimate moment of reckoning arrived for Golden Tempo. And what makes this Belmont victory so remarkable is the context behind the numbers you're seeing here. The race started with an agonizingly slow early pace, which is a nightmare setup that mathematically punishes horses who run from the back of the pack. Yet jockey Jose Ortiz anchored him with ice-cold patience. Against all odds and pacing logic, he guided Golden Tempo to an absolute victory.
Exploding with an awe-inspiring turn of foot on the final stretch, Golden Tempo didn't just survive the test of the champion. He completely dismantled his rivals, Commandment and Renegade, with raw athletic brilliance. He systematically silenced the doubters and proved once and for all that he was a high-octane machine.
Finally, let's weigh legacy versus modern management. So what do we actually make of this? Golden Tempo's unorthodox path forces us to synthesize two completely valid yet wildly opposing views on thoroughbred management. On one hand, you have the case against, that a risk-averse corporate strategy deliberately shielded him from athletic adversity, robbing him of true sporting immortality. But on the other hand, the case for, that this was a visionary welfare-first blueprint that refused to break a magnificent animal for archaic nostalgia, brilliantly securing both his health and a dual classic legacy.
So I leave you with this final thought to chew on. Did Golden Tempo and his team brilliantly outsmart an outdated, punishing system to conquer the era on their own terms? Or, by refusing to face the ultimate crucible, was he permanently robbed of his rightful place among the true immortal gods of the turf? Let those questions sink in. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.